time to jump up in the air. Jump up, don't be scared. Jump up and your cares will soar away. And if the dark clouds start to swirl, don't feel them shed a tear, 'cause let's do the Odyssey.
It's October 29th, 2017. You're listening to the Fancy Ramen podcast. I'm Neil.
I'm Cookie.
And I'm Scott.
A lot of new shit's coming out. Assassin's Creed, Wolfenstein, Super Mario Odyssey. But before we talk about that, how have your weeks been, everyone?
Good. About the same as normal. Been making skateboards and making skateboard presses and watching a little bit of anime. Just a little bit.
Me too, minus all of the skateboard stuff.
Oh.
Wishing I had a skateboard.
Well, you can certainly buy one.
And where would I find such a quality skateboard?
By literally just asking me.
Sweet.
That was where you could put your Etsy plug.
Yeah, I don't really know my Etsy plug, though.
Do you have Etsy?
I do have Etsy, and I'm also on Fancy. You can just find me at Cookie Skimilk.
See, Cookie is both an excellent artisan and podcast personality, but maybe not as much as a businessman. Maybe not as much in the marketing department.
It's honestly just social media stuff that doesn't help me.
Cookie, if you didn't have an Etsy, I'd recommend your username be Etsy Ramen.
Well, I unfortunately do have an Etsy, but I can switch it.
No, I don't think it's worth that much of a joke.
Too late, switched.
Have you been watching anything in particular?
So just caught up on the last 2 episodes of the ballroom dancing anime. Still enjoying that. I've actually officially caught up on Dragon Ball Z Super.
My condolences.
Nah,
You
man.
know, it's actually, like you said, Scott, after you get past all the bullshit filler to the power Tournament of Power.
Exactly. Like it's Neil, it's not like you're going to be watching this for anything particularly special, but it's pretty damn good once you get to the Tournament of Power. Like it's the Dragon Ball Z combat you always wanted to see, animated better than when was Dragon Ball Z done? Like 15 years ago?
It was a while ago, but they got everything, like they learned from Dragon Ball Z Kai.
Oh,
where they
yeah,
kind of
no,
just
they
cut out all
totally
the
did.
extra shit.
What's Dragon Ball Z Kai?
Dragon Ball Z Kai is the edited version of Dragon Ball Z, and so they take out like fillers of powering up for several episodes and just go right through it. It's the only way to watch it anymore, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you're even going to watch it, I guess I should note that. Like, I'm not wholeheartedly endorsing that Dragon Ball Z Kai or Dragon Ball Super are the top anime to watch at any point in time.
Do you happen to know how many episodes they cut out?
They cut out a lot.
And I don't think it's like episodes that they cut out, it's frames that they cut out. So, you know, that whole Goku holding up a spirit bomb for 13 episodes while Frieza sat and waited on Namek. I think that just got dropped down to like an episode and a half, probably.
Well, right, like you
Yeah.
joke, but I wonder if it's actually that significant.
No, it's that significant.
If
It
it's a matter
definitely is.
of there were, 300 episodes before and now there are 70 episodes, or what that's probably a bit of a hyperbole.
I do know that at least up until the Cell Saga, it's only 100 episodes or so for Kai. So it's actually condensed substantially.
Dragon Ball Kai returned to Japanese TV on April 6, 2014 with the Majin Buu saga and ended its run for the second and last time on June 28, 2015 with 61 episodes, while the original uncut international version would go on to have 69 episodes, bringing the total episode count to 159 for the original. I'm Wikipediaing this right now.
So there's 159 for Kai, and for for the original Dragon Ball Z, it's 291.
See, so it is substantial.
Wow.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, so they really learned how not to just have 13 years of filler.
And the other thing is too is like obviously Super jokes about it's very self-aware, so it's not annoying in any way. Like they always play into the jokes.
Yep, so kind of caught up on that, and while trying to find out things to watch with my wife, I noticed that Akira was on Amazon Prime Strike. So I was like, hey, Lizzie, you haven't seen this before, have you? And she's like, no. I was like, well, welcome to my childhood. Let's watch a kid's forehead get really large throughout the course of a movie.
Yeah, I was about to say something about this not being the most appropriate kid movie, but it occurred to me that I also watched it when I was maybe 12 or 10 or younger.
I was about to say, it's kind of, because it came out then, and Lizzie was like, so what's the big deal about Akira before I like even started watching it? I was like, it kind of brought anime to the Western countries of just being like, oh yeah, this is kind of what they work with now. And she was noting during the actual movie how smooth the animation was. I'm like, yeah, that's back when they had to hand draw everything.
Not to mention, it opens up with such a satisfying action sequence with the biker gang fight.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
not just a biker gang fight, an on-bike racing fight, if you will.
It was enjoyable. I forgot how much of that movie I actually understood / watched, and I was like, the beginning biker fight and what's his name powering up to have a really huge head. And actually, his head didn't get nearly as big as I remember it getting. But besides that, I was like, okay, I don't remember any of this movie.
So did you watch the
old
dub
people.
or the subtitle?
Oh, subtitle. I don't think they've got the dubs on the anime strike.
I don't think I've ever watched Akira in subtitled before.
Oh really?
Really?
That's how I've seen it.
I was about to say, I've never seen it dubbed.
Dude, you're missing out on Kaneda!
Tetsuo! Kaneda!
Just back and forth. It's really great. It's a lot of fun.
I've tried to make it through the manga since the movie cuts out, not even just like truncates certain portions, it cuts out an entire story arc at the end of the manga. And
there's more?
Yeah,
Why?
like after Tetsuo basically destroys Tokyo, he kind of rules as like a tribal chieftain, if you will, for a while. What else have you done?
Just been playing video games, and like I said, I've been working on a skateboard press that I think I'm just going to burn. It's not turning out that well. So I think I may just go back to buying skateboards wholesale and then painting them.
Oh, I was wondering if you were either doing like wood burning design or just straight up setting fire to the project.
Setting fire to the project, but I do want to do wood burning design on the skateboards once they get built.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
So speaking of anime movies, this week I went out and saw Koe no Katachi, which translates to a silent voice. And it was really selective in its play dates, or its showings. I only saw it available in one theater here at like a Marcus theater for one night. I was kind of surprised that it wasn't at Alamo Drafthouse, since they've usually been picking up a lot of the obscure anime movies.
Yeah.
From in this corner of the world, in this little corner of the world, or whatever that World War II movie was, to like the slightly bigger titles. And I don't necessarily know if this necessarily was hyped up as Your Name, but I actually really, really enjoyed A Silent Voice. I think like maybe it's unfair just to compare the two because they're both anime movies, but I think I enjoyed A Silent Voice much more than Your Name.
Well, Blasphemy. Yeah, there we go.
Blasphemer, it's a new technique to break someone's legs, or Blasphemer, the Lord of the Rings character that is often forgotten because he believes in radical ideas.
He's like Boromir's cousin who picked up a book on anarchy a little too soon.
Oh no, did he drop this girl off of a building?
Are you
What?
just spoiling things for yourself?
Yeah, what the...
You
what the
need
hell?
to avoid the spoilers. A Silent Hill is basically about a
Wait,
silent
Silent
voice.
Hill?
It's a silent voice. You guys are falling apart here.
A Silent Hill is basically about a town where creepy things are happening.
that could be the next sequel to the Silent Hill series. They were going to make Silent Hills and then a Silent Hill, just to like finally explain that there are multiple Silent Hills. Now, A Silent Voice is a movie about that follows a young boy that, as an elementary school kid, bullied a deaf girl, and in return, after the bullying gets so bad that she ends up moving, he ends up getting bullied by his friends who were also participating in said bullying, and he kind of becomes a loner. And about him, I guess you could say, dealing with that guilt as he grows up older, reconnecting with the deaf girl, and not necessarily attempting, but happening to also reconnect with those friends that bullied him as a kid. Lots of tears. I was pretty red-eyed by the time the movie ended.
So you were getting high at the same time of watching this heartfelt movie. Way to go, Neil.
Drinking,
Nice.
Yes. Drinking lots of coffee with it too. Isn't that the red eye? Is a espresso
it is
drink with coffee?
Oh,
It
it's also
is.
the main illegal narcotic in Cowboy Bebop, which we talked about last time.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's also referring to the last plane ride for the night.
Isn't that
Which
red
is-
line?
No,
No,
it's
it's a
red
red
eye. That's where the coffee drink actually gets its name from. It's the kind of drink you'd have.
On that plane trip.
Yeah,
Those are not fun rides.
Not-
'cause they
they suck.
Not to be mistaken for the Police song. Wait, is that Red Light? Or is that Roxanne?
Roxanne.
What's the title of that song, though?
Roxanne probably.
Fuck. Whatever.
I thought it had to do with red light. That's different.
Yeah, that's what
You
I was
don't
saying.
have
Red-
to
yeah.
turn on the red light.
Yeah.
Roxanne.
What have you been up to, Scott, aside from not building skateboards?
I actually went for a really awesome hike yesterday up in the Blue Mountain Trail area. So I hiked probably, let's say 5, maybe 6 miles with my sister and her dog. It was really great. And we had a pretty great time, especially trying to corral her dog, who is a blue heeler named Howl.
A blue healer? Is that kind of like
I was-
a blue mage, except...
I was thinking that exact same thing. I was like, I thought they were white.
So it's
This
an
is
Well,
kind
no,
of
no,
a
I,
dog.
I get it.
Cattle
Like, blue
dog?
mages were made popular in Final Fantasy IV, or 5, excuse me, and they could use monster abilities. So it's a healer that uses monsters' abilities to heal.
This
So-
dog kind of looks like he would use monster abilities.
There's 2 colors of Australian cattle dogs when they have
Red and blue?
It's red and blue when they have white and then normally like kind of a brown red fur or a black one, and then they look actually kind of like more gray for the blue healers and sort of like rusty colored for the red healers. But
So basically what you're saying is this is the beginning of Pokemon.
yeah, and we went for Blastoise. And you would think that he would be the less aggressive choice of the two, but Hal is like a super energetic dog, and healers like to nip because they're cattle dogs. And so the whole time we're on the trail, like everybody else in Montana just has their dog off the leash running around like crazy, and we have to like tell these people like, hey, he bites. And then some people panic, other people are like, let my dog get bit, they'll learn. It's actually really stressful and kind of annoying.
Well, I'm glad that you're kind enough to say, hey, he bites, because a lot of people are just like, is your dog friendly? Oh yeah, super friendly.
Well, and that's the thing too, is Hal is actually great with people. Like, he loves people, but other dogs he could not give a fuck about. So he bites other dogs. Like, they'll get close and they'll like put their faces near each other, and then Hal will just bite at the face. He'll just give a little nip. And so when people have their dogs off their leashes, it's tough because they'll come up to Hal and it's just like, hey, not a great idea, but approach at your own risk.
Maybe Hal thinks he's more human than dog, and he's like, get away from me, you filthy mutt.
I think his particular breed's like super protective, and so when he's around my sister or her husband, he's like very protective of them towards other dogs, but he thinks all other people are pretty much cool. So he's not much for a guard dog unless your burglar is another dog. Besides that, though, like in the same realm as Cookie, I've watched a little bit of anime. And while Sierra and I are still going through Cowboy Bebop in my free time, while she was in Great Falls this week for some training, I watched the new episodes for season 2 of Blood Blockade Battlefront, also known as Kekkai Sensen. And this show is I really love it. It's great, and I think that it is up the alley of anybody who really enjoyed Bakano or liked Durarara with the whole colliding storylines. The difference is that both of those, well, I guess Bakano less so, but especially in Durarara, like the action and crazy things that are going on get built around you as you learn about the characters. And it's less of you getting dropped into too crazy of a world, while in Bakano and Blood Blockade Battlefront, the tongue twister of an anime, they pretty much drop you right into what's going on, and you kind of have to get your bearings very quickly. But it's a super fun show. It's very charming. The premise is that the main character has returned to New York that's become a place called Hell Salem's Lot because a portal to the demon world or whatever opened up, and now New York is just this crazy just mix of demons from the previous, I guess, like demon world and like New Yorkers trying to coexist. And so there's just erratic wildness going on at all times in this show. It's got a great sense of humor. The animation is top notch, and the music is really good too. It's just got a really strong, very quirky and unique theme that I absolutely enjoy. Have either of you guys seen it or aware of it?
No, but that sounds like a great let's watch.
You really got to check it out. Yeah. Oh, it would be a great let's watch.
Are we still doing Stranger Things?
I mean, I'm already caught up on Stranger Things for if we're talking about that. So no worries there. But if you want to do an anime instead, I'm also down. Well, I've watched both of these, so I have the least that I need to do.
We'll discuss.
Wait, you've already finished season 2?
No. I'm 4 episodes into season 2, so I'm at the normal cutoff point for us, or slightly ahead of it.
I can dig it.
Yeah, we'll talk on that front more.
The rest of my week has been absorbed in all of the big game releases that have happened on October 27th.
There were games that were released on October 27th?
Yeah, like a couple small games. This series, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's called Assassin's Creed. They released a game. I'm sure nobody's played it.
Is that made by that one company,
Unity?
Yeah, I think that's it.
In addition to Assassin's Creed Origins, though, we have Wolfenstein, the new Colossus, and Super Mario Odyssey that released. And since I only had the cash flow to throw towards one of these games, I decided to go for the one that I knew was going to be a success.
Assassin's Creed?
Super Mario Odyssey.
I mean, before you get into that, since it sounds like Cookie, you also have Super Mario Odyssey, and you've been putting some time into that. I was going to say, though, that like this Assassin's Creed doesn't look that bad. I'm kind of interested, cautiously optimistic.
Well, I've got good news for you then, Neil. You live in one of the only cities that allow you to rent video games from a brick and mortar.
You aren't talking about Redbox?
No, I'm not talking about Redbox. Because Redbox is $3 a day, whereas you can just go ahead and rent this game from Family Video for the week for like $6.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I thought those stores
And
were
you
all
can get
gone.
a pizza while you're at it.
You can get a pizza while you're at it. Nope, they're in Omaha.
Two
Yeah,
stores
there's several.
remain.
I still get emails from them, and I haven't rented a movie in like a year and a half.
Ooh, that means the next time you're here, they'll probably let you rent a video game for free.
Ooh, that'd be great. And then I just have to make sure to drive all the way back to return it once my week's up.
Or you just
Yep.
never take it back.
And then they'll charge you full price for it.
Yeah, I think they've got my credit card, so.
So, okay, so that's how people do it, right? Because I never knew how a company would actually hold someone responsible, kind of like Redbox, right?
Yeah, you put some sort of money into the system.
If it's a full, like a brand new video game that's going to cost a lot of money for them to replace, they actually make you put down a deposit.
Okay.
Because people do steal those games. They're like, well, just give us like, I think it's like $40 or $20. And they're like, okay, when you return it, you get your money back. Either way. Yeah, I'm actually thinking about doing the not the Redbox, the Family Video for Assassin's Creed Origins. Because yes, as you stated, it does look kind of interesting.
I heard good reviews.
It's almost like not making one every year is helping their development.
Yeah, or it's almost as if, actually everyone just avoiding the series for the past 7 games also helped their development.
Yeah, letting our money do the talking.
Oh, yeah.
But speaking of good reviews, I've seen Super Mario Odyssey get a couple perfect scores. How have your experiences been with it so far?
So I am just getting to my 3rd world, playing single player without my wife, and, I actually really like it. I will say I'm using Cappy while playing with my wife. We're currently in the desert world, so the 2nd world that you get to. And I kind of find it a little funner. I actually like playing Cappy, so I can mess with her and make her like jump further if she doesn't really want to, or even like maneuvering around with her. I'm able to like time out things better because I can just hit a button and Cappy will automatically just pop under Mario and he'll jump a little bit further. I'm like, oh, sweet. So I like it. It harkens back to, really reminds me of Super Mario 64 and how that kind of worked out. As a matter of fact, we went underneath the waterfall, and the slight spoiler, I guess, in the first world, and it actually had like this empty picture frame as a homage to Mario 64, I think. It reminded me of Mario 64, though.
No. There's definitely some empty picture frames that you can use to warp.
Ooh.
I've also found one in the desert area.
So
Sweet.
does the game have a similar system in place to Mario 64 where your open world or your quote-unquote map, if you wanted to compare it to Super Mario World, is like an explorable place, or...
No,
it's kind of, you're just hopping from world to world, so think of it closer to Galaxy. But
except you don't have a home world, you just have a ship.
Can you deck out your ship?
yes,
Customize it?
Have you put any stickers on it, Cookie?
I have not, but I've been looking at some, and I was like, okay, yeah.
You gotta buy the stickers. They're great.
I kind of am thinking to do a little more customization now. I kind of played it yesterday by myself, and was just kind of like, okay, let's get through this. Let's have some fun. Let's play some game. And then today, when using Cappy and Lizzie being Mario, it was a lot slower exploration. She is very good at picking the right direction to go that no one actually goes in. Hence that Zelda game that came out recently.
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild, finding the one boss on the main plateau. It's like, I didn't even think of going that way. Didn't know that was a way you could go. Way to go. So yeah. So I'm enjoying it. How about yourself, Scott?
Oh man, I've been having a blast. I haven't played since Super Mario Sunshine, and I find that the controls are very similar, which is really nice. Like all of the Mario moves that I knew how to do in Sunshine carry over in one way or another. whether it's the like spin jump that kind of gives you a way to float. You have that helicopter motion going, or you have your standing still backflip or the long jump leap. Like, it's really nice to have all of those available and the classic Mario movement and controls. But Cappy makes it so much more fun. Like, the combat just feels a lot easier when you're not just trying to hop on the heads of a bunch of enemies, and you can do, say, your spin throw or toss Cappy at something to use as an assist. It just feels like all of the difficulties I had with movement and dealing with enemies in the previous Mario games kind of get solved by having Cappy either as my 2-player, which I've played with Sierra and that went pretty well. Besides camera controls being a little hard to do, a second player is a ton of fun and you're able to play pretty cooperatively, which is really nice. Like, I feel like you can sometimes perform the cap jump a little easier and things like that when you're working on having a partner move Cappy around because the precision is better. But the game's just a blast. It's so much fun. The motion controls, have you been using those at all, Cookie? Or
no, since I was playing in handheld mode, I was not able to use the motion controls, but I do want to actually sit it up on its kickstand and be like, ha! Drumming motion to spin, to roll.
Yeah, I think the motion controls are really good, minus the fact that I have not yet been able to perform a throw of Cappy upwards. Like, I can roll him on the ground forward, and I can do the spin throw and the regular throws, but I can't throw him upwards, and I don't know what the issue is. Like, I've tried to replicate it.
Even I've been able to throw him upwards, and I've been in handheld mode.
Oh, really? How do you do it?
So usually when you're trying to throw something up, you have like a up, but then you go down immediately after to like be able to see the screen or be able to get your controls back to where you're like them being. Yeah. Just hold it up.
Hold my camera angle up?
No, just hold your controllers up.
Oh, okay.
So instead of trying to like reset your hands back, because that reset will throw Cappy down.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're putting your hands up and then you're just throwing again with like Y when you have the controllers up.
Nope. I'm just tossing them up with the controllers up. Is that not working for you?
It's not working for me. It has yet to work, but I'll keep practicing.
I got faith in you.
But that's the only complaint I have. Like, the ability to switch between... I've been using the motion controls almost exclusively. Whether it's to accelerate while rolling or to do the auto homing with Cappy once I've thrown him out, like flicking my wrist back and forth.
Wait, that lets you accelerate while rolling?
Yes. Oh, yeah. If you're rolling, you shake the Wiimotes and you can roll faster. And so you can roll uphill with that. Or when you're climbing, you can shake the Wiimote and you'll climb twice as fast. Like, it's really great. Sierra saw me just shaking my arms side to side and up and down to no avail quite a lot last night when I was playing. I look crazy while I'm doing it, but it's so much fun. Like, it's brought a smile to my face just being that actively engaged and like kinetically involved in playing the game. I really am having an utter blast, and I'm only a little bit ahead of where you're at. I'm in the third world, and there's a fork that you'll encounter, I think.
Which way did you go?
Soon. Well, since Sierra and I were playing together, I didn't want to do the water world because I know that moving underwater does require some camera controls, and she was
about
not
to say,
doing a good job
who's
at that.
Who's using Cappy?
I made Sierra use Cappy.
Okay, so just tell her stop touching the camera control, and you'll be fine. Oh, yeah. I guess you only have one Switch. You only have one set of Joy-Con, right?
That's right.
It gets a lot easier if you buy a second set of Joy-Con.
Which will probably be in the works soon, now that I realize how much fun it is to play and how great it is doing 2-player. Like, I'm not a big fan of 2-player with Sierra because I'm a like crabby, shitty person when I'm doing bad at games. And so at least when it's like cooperative 2-player, that's my Achilles heel sometimes is I get grumpy. And so I don't want to expose Sierra to that. So
You got to show her both the good and the bad side of you, Scott.
I know. She gets. I mean, as you'll find with any significant other, once you spend enough time with them, you get to know both sides. And I'm just worried that there's more bad sides to Scott than good. So I'm trying to limit the exposure. I'm trying to do her a favor. But yeah, it's actually one of the few games that we've played cooperatively that we can still have a lot of fun, even if, the camera's a little tricky for us to get used to.
I was about to say, because, the holding down the Y button and then moving to do the controller. I mean, to do the camera.
Move.
Yeah,
which is
I was
an
like,
issue.
Like, I put it in 2-player mode when me and Lizzie played this morning. I was like, do that to move camera. I was like, nope.
Not at all.
Synced up my Joy-Con to Lizzie's Switch and was like, okay,
cool.
You use this set of controllers, I'll use this set of controllers. You control the camera all you want, or you can have me dictate where the camera goes.
Yeah.
But only one of us will control camera, and it's just the stick. We got this.
It was a lot of fun to do one of the boss fights with Sierra, because it was one of the perfect boss fights to do it. Cappy can clean up some poison pools later.
Mm-hmm.
And so having her run around and clean up the area in the boss fight so I didn't have to avoid the environmental hazard was awesome. It helped a ton, and I thought, this is way better than I could do on my own if I were playing one player.
Did you hit the second boss in the forest area yet?
I don't think so, no. So
okay, so we're about the same spot.
Yeah, we haven't progressed further in it. And
yeah.
the capture commands are great. Playing as all these different types of captured characters adds so much fun to the game. I love playing this Mario that's able to do anything in his environment. I'm just having an absolute riot.
You planning on getting this now?
Already have it, just haven't played it yet.
It's good. You gotta get some playtime in.
So what's Tiff think of it then?
I think she's enjoying it. She just started playing it this morning. She just gave it a thumbs up.
Yeah, until you catch
that's a 10
her
out of 10.
Walking around the house going, Odyssey, Odyssey. You know that she hasn't fully experienced it yet. Because at least that's what I'm doing. I'm walking around going, Odyssey, Odyssey, just singing along. Oh,
yeah. No, this game's I'm giving it a perfect score so far.
I'm a Zelda fanboy, and I think I've preferred the Mario Switch game over the Zelda Switch game so far.
Well, as you should.
Yeah.
Speaking of preferring one game over another, I hear that Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. Which one do you think is going to do better, Assassin's Creed or Wolfenstein?
Hopefully Wolfenstein, but I don't know. I haven't played a Wolfenstein game since playing just a little bit of the original.
Lizzie was watching me go through my emails this morning, and CD Key sent me an email, and they're like, "Hey, Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. It's like $30." And then she was like,
"Wow,
are you going to get it?" And I was like, "Well, maybe for that price." I stand corrected. I think it was like 34, but yeah. Either way, CD Key's got it for, crazy gray market amounts.
I don't necessarily feel the need to get either of them right away, especially since Wolfenstein, its publisher Bethesda, tends to drop prices relatively fast, and we have Black Friday and all of those sales coming up. Within a month.
That's right.
Now. These games really crept up on me, and I can't say I'm necessarily that excited, but I am definitely curious what the two titles bring in terms of story. Is Assassin's Creed, do they still have the future portion of the game that you have to play that has significantly changed over the years?
No idea.
I don't think so. I think it just hints at story things that's going on, that's happening for the future cuts. But I don't think you're actually playing any of the future cuts anymore. I think they kind of, after they killed Desmond.
Well, so
Desmond's dead?
So you played as a guy working at a company digging for memories in one game, and it seemed significant enough that you were doing a lot of back-end shit, helping the support characters from the first 3 games more or less hack into the Templars' databases. And then in another game after that, you played as just a dude playing his video game console.
Oh, really?
As fucking meta as that is. I think that was not Black Flag, but the one after it. and Black Flag is the one where you were an employee for the Templars.
Yeah.
But like Wolfenstein, on the other hand, the reboot was pretty awesome to begin with. At least I think it's a reboot. Like I don't think any of the other games are canon with it. Yeah, they can't be. All I know about that game is that they're a decent portion of maybe the early game or something, you're playing in a wheelchair, and that the wheelchair mechanic is actually significant to your movement. At least I imagine. So
I would hope a wheelchair mechanic would be significant to your movement.
I just hope it's not like, and this is me not doing my homework and looking into it, but I hope it's not, someone's pushing your wheelchair, so you're basically on rails the whole time. But I don't think that's the case. That game's, that the original Wolfenstein, or I should say, New Order.
Colossus? Oh, yeah, New Order.
They did a lot of things to make that experience cool and fun, especially in this era of, single player games aren't doing it or aren't cutting it, blah, blah, blah.
Yep, because we can't have a single player game anymore. Bye, Star Wars.
What I have been playing is Yomawari Midnight Shadows. I've been trading the controller between Tiffany and myself. And
what are you playing it on?
That is being played on PlayStation 4. I had that $30 gift certificate that we got from the PlayStation Experience back during E3. So I finally just spent it on that. So effectively a free game.
I like it. How is it?
It's pretty great. Midnight Shadows is a follow-up to the original Yomawari, Night Alone. In both games, you control a grade school-aged girl who explores a haunted town at night, evading dangers posed by ghosts and monsters, or I guess probably all technically ghosts, all while investigating the disappearance of a loved one. In the first game, you're looking for your sister. In this game, you're playing as a different girl looking for presumably your best friend. The game is set in this pseudo isometric top-down worldview, and I'm not sure if I talked about Night Alone. I think it was before we started doing the podcast. But in this top-down world, it's entirely 2D. The artwork is 2D as well, and it's grimy and spooky sort of atmosphere. The movement is also entirely 2D for that matter. So if there are stairs, they're drawn in a way that looks three-dimensional, or it looks like there's perspective to it. But ultimately, as you walk down, you're going straight across the stairs. I don't know how better to describe it. It's the artwork has dimension to it, but at the end of the day, you're walking on a flat surface.
Makes sense.
Whereas the characters have that sprite-like feel. It's kind of like if you saw a pixel sprite that was then drawn out to be non-pixel. And so the controls are really basic. You move around with your D-pad or left analog stick using your top buttons to run or tippy toe. And then you have a flashlight that you control with your right analog stick. And light plays a pretty important role, being able to show you where items are, and also in some cases, depending on how dark it is, be the only source of a vision on a map. Enemy mechanics are also pretty basic. Some enemies are drawn towards light, other enemies are scared by light. Certain enemies will go towards you if you look at them, or look away from them. And likewise, at least in the first game, you had enemies that if you were watching them, they would not attack you. And then you have kind of these sort of boss encounters, which are puzzly-ish, mixed with that regular survival method that you have throughout the game, just trying to keep away from them touching you. But those boss battles usually involve a lot of trial and error, so you end up dying a shit ton, kind of like Limbo or Inside, until you figure out what you're actually supposed to do, or how to dodge certain patterns, or how to recognize certain patterns. But there are some quality of life improvements. You now have equipable items that can change things like your run speed, the number of items you can hold. What else? Just things like that to kind of allow you to change the gameplay a bit to your liking. And I think the story this time around is a little more interesting because it basically gives you a very ominous scene at the beginning of the game, and then the story then proceeds to follow a very different take from there. It's like, I guess I don't have a good metaphor or simile for it, but basically you're told one thing, and then immediately afterwards you see something that contradicts what you were just told. And along with that, like maybe one of my favorite things about this game is it's such a minor thing, but when you start the game off, you're presented with a black screen with white text that basically just says, I'll have to pull it up real quick. So the first screen says, before we start the game, we have to ask you something. Please turn off all lights and focus on the screen. Are you ready? And then you get a choice, yes or no. And
so if you click no, it says game over, and
I can't remember exactly what it says when you click no, but then the screen afterwards, after you said yes, they say, the game says, like, please watch the screen and only the screen while you're playing this game. And there's another choice of yes or no. And if you click no there, the game then says, we are not responsible for what you see, like, off of the screen. Kind of like giving you an ominous warning that as you play the screen, you might be haunted. Just like Limbo and Inside, for that matter, I kind of don't like the trial and error sort of gameplay element to it. Like it's frustrating having a game that expects you to get killed a bunch in order to increase its difficulty or to serve as a principal game mechanic. Like that seems kind of dumb. Whereas I think more creative gameplay could educate or teach the player how to survive something without actually just having you die repeatedly and still serve as challenging. But, the game is fine otherwise. It's kind of terrifying to me when I'm playing it. So hence why Tiffany takes over the controls pretty often.
Wait, you put it on Tiffany to do the dirty work then?
Tiffany wears the pants in this relationship when it comes to scary games.
Neil, I've seen you wearing pants though.
But have you seen me wearing pants while playing a scary game?
No, I guess I haven't. Neil goes over and puts on his shorts. It's like, well, time to play a scary game.
Way to make your partner do all the work, you sly dog.
Yeah.
Oh god, that ballroom fucking metaphor reference.
Yep. Meta. Anyway, so yeah, that's video games.
Yeah, how about we open up that hot pot and you smack that mic a couple times?
Yep, smack the mic a couple of times.
So have you guys checked out the Analogue Super NT console?
No, I've just looked at it now, and wow, is the like at least the different console body types I see here on the article I'm reading, with its like sleek black or the classic color schemes for both the
SNES and Super Famicom.
International and like the Super Famicom and the SNES like color schemes, as well as the weird kind of see-through like clear plastic casing designs. It looks really sleek, and its price point is significantly lower than what some of its
what's its price point? That's what I was kind of looking for.
This is $189.99 available to pre-order now. The so Analogue Super NT console is a follow-up to their regular NT console, which is basically a Nintendo console or NES console on steroids. And
right.
Why I say that, this is, before I go any further, is not the type of console you buy if you can't find yourself an SNES Classic, because at its core, this is only a console and not something that houses a bunch of games on it. At its core, we'll talk about something else in a second here. But what this console basically enables you is the highest performance upscaling possible to go from an original, standard definition to up to 1080p or through HDMI. There are no analog outputs, which is kind of surprising given that price point. But reportedly, the latency is extremely low, better than your FrameMeisters or any other like high-end professional converters, upscalers. What the Super NT can also do, like the NT, is when you're playing a game, you can actually go in and filter out specific layers of visuals as well as different channels from your audio. So you can isolate out specific audio tracks or MIDI channels, if you will, down to like only a bass line in a song, for instance. You can go in and filter out different visual effects. So if there's a fog overlay in a dungeon, you can get rid of the fog, that sort of stuff. It, like, by all means, is literally an emulator in terms of what it's capable of doing, but it still is actually a
simulator.
It's still based around the hardware itself.
So you also put the physical games in there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it still requires the cartridges in order to play the games.
So would you go over, like, say, the Retron 5?
Well, in the case of the Retron 5, what you're looking at is a lower quality upscaler, and there is more latency involved in that. So if you wanted like the purest way to play a Super Nintendo game, aside from having to go out and buy a professional grade, like a FrameMeister, for instance, is something that you can plug your RGB, or your standard composite video input into, and that'll upscale it pretty well to 1080p or through HDMI. The issue with a lot of those older Retrons, or older, I should say, just current market Retrons and other like Super Nintendo to HDMI style things, are that the upscalers are usually pretty cheap. The FrameMeister, by the way, is around $300 or $400 depending on how you pick it up. It's kind of a harder to find item if you're not just getting it from eBay. Whereas, like, what makes the Super NT so interesting is because it's less than a FrameMeister. And by the way, I don't know if you've ever seen some of the documentation to compare, like, what running into, like, a cheap Amazon purchased upscaler would look like if you were playing a Nintendo or SNES game on your regular HD TV compared to using a FrameMeister or, like, emulating off of a computer. But the differences are staggering. And even then, like, if you're using an emulator on your computer or like an emulator off of like a Raspberry Pi, there are still issues. Since we were just talking about Final Fantasy 6 or 3 last week, one thing that comes up as soon as I think about issues with emulators are weird graphical glitches. So during the scene where Edgar and Locke discuss Terra using magic, when they go and start laughing, and they start to fall off the screen. On emulators, a very common problem is that their heads get cut off and just start sinking onto the dialogue box.
Nice.
I'll have to load up CSNES and pull up a screenshot for it, but you never see that on the hardware, and you wouldn't see it on this, for instance. Whereas, like, so emulators can get rid of most of the latency problem, but they still aren't perfect recreations of the audio and video. The other thing, though, is that there's a hacker / modder by the name of Kevtris, who's known pretty well in the scene, and in particular for like basically breaking or creating a firmware for the NT console that allows you to basically run ROMs on it. And he's actually on staff for the Super NT and with Analogue at this point as a full-time programmer. And it seems like there's been some hinting that there will be unofficial firmware, which you can load on just using an SD card, to allow the Super NT to just run ROMs. And like you might ask, like, what's the difference between using a ROM on the Super NT if you're like, if you buy the Super NT, you obviously aren't happy with just emulation or using like another affordable SNES like hardware emulation clone. So why would you use ROMs? Well, like running the ROM itself is no different off of like an SD card compared to putting the cartridge in. It's the hardware that actually matters and the upscaler that actually determines what your appearance and experience are going to be. So under, like off the cuff or under the table conversation going, if you buy the Super NT console, get the unofficial firmware once it's out, you could potentially have every single SNES game at your fingertips at $190 at supposedly the best quality you could expect.
Okay.
Doesn't sound like you're sold.
I don't really have like a need to go back in time and play old games.
Now you have the SNES Classic too.
Says the man with the SNES Classic. Yeah.
So mainly, my wife wanted it, and we quite literally played it that one time that Neil was here, and that was his SNES Classic. And since then, I've played about 4 minutes. Those 4 minutes of Final Fantasy 7.
Or you mean 6? 6,
meant
sure.
6.
3, 6.
And wasn't
3.
it 45 that you put in?
Hyperbole at its fullest. But yeah, I just wanted to point out that like this is a super fucking cool thing, and if you don't want the SNES Classic because it doesn't have the games you want or any other number of reasons, this is an expensive, albeit like very viable option. And looking at what the NT console has done, Analogue's NT console, I have nothing but confidence that this one will be pretty fantastic. And the price is actually super cheap compared to what their other offerings have been so far. I'm actually pulling them up right now. The NT Mini goes for...
Oh, it's $459 or $449 for the NT Mini, and the NT was $499.
Yep.
Are you saying $100?
Yes.
I don't want this.
That's very expensive.
$500 for the NT.
I thought this was cheaper, Neil.
The Super NT is $190.
Oh, okay, good, because that's too much.
Oh, also, they developed, and you might be able to buy them separately, but they developed wireless SNES controllers. So if you actually look at this console, this uses the original ports. So if you wanted to plug in your original SNES controller, you could, or similarly for the NT Mini and NT. But the wireless controllers, I presume, would work on original Super Nintendos as well. I could be wrong.
The 8-bit-o? Yeah, the 8-bit-os work. They're coming out pretty soon. I've had one pre-ordered on Amazon, but then I realized I wasn't going to continue to play the SNES Classic, so then I just canceled my pre-order of the 8-bit Super Nintendo controller.
Oh, so you were familiar with it?
Then realizing I don't really care to play these old games, I was like, okay, I'll just pass.
But 8-bit though.
Yeah, it's I think it's like $24, 8-bit.
That's not too bad. Was that with the retro receiver as well?
Yeah.
So another curious thing too is that retro receiver also supports PS4, PS3, Wiimote, and Wii U Pro controllers. Don't even need that 8-bit though.
The 8-bit though.
Hey, what up with that 8-bit though? In other news, Sony will be announcing 7 new titles at Paris Games Week on Monday, tomorrow, or today, depending on when this is released. My first question, should we expect a From Software title to be amongst these?
I expect some form of software to be announced.
I mean, fingers crossed. Don't they have... I think they currently have 3 games stated that are in development that they haven't released any more information on.
Oh, these are the guys that make the Dark Souls, right?
That made the Dark Souls games.
Right.
Past tense. Because...
Oh, no, they got fired?
Oh,
No.
and one of those games we should say is Armored Core. Like, they are making a new Armored Core game.
Oh, that I want. Please, thank you.
Right?
Yeah,
I'm
I love
really
Armored
curious.
Core.
So I'd be hyped if we saw a new Armored Core, or if we saw a Bloodborne 2, or just something completely different. Like, I know Bloodborne 2 is kind of the long shot, but...
I thought that there was an article somewhere out there that quoted Miyazaki saying that there was going to be another Armored Core game, another sort of like fantasy-esque game that was not Dark Souls, and then they had a third one that he had said something like, it's just gonna be kind of weird, okay? And so I don't know what that can qualify for,
Okay, so my question is,
but
What
it doesn't
would you-
sound like Bloodborne.
what would you rather see? Bloodborne 2 or Demon Souls 2?
I haven't played Demon Souls, which makes me
What?
pretty much lined up to say Bloodborne 2. Plus, Bloodborne's particular, I guess, gimmick of trick weapons was just so satisfying and interesting, and I'd love to see all of the improvements they can make on it now after kind of getting a little bit more time to work on a faster, more fluid combat system from Dark Souls 3. I think Bloodborne 2 would be my pick anyway, even if I did play a Demon Souls game. I'm pretty satisfied on my Dark Souls action for a while here.
One article I've read from express.co.uk basically implies that one of From Software's new games will likely launch in 2017. But
Really?
that seems...
There's only a couple months remaining.
Yeah, that seems very ambitious.
Well, Persona 5 was going to release in like 2016, so...
Oh, so 2019, 2020? We'll see Bloodborne 2 maybe?
I mean, I'll say maybe late 2018 to 2019 we'll see a big title come out from them. But I'm definitely not betting that 2017 will have anything substantial released by From Software.
I don't really have much to say. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I can't think of anything else I'm really looking forward to that this could potentially be, because it's at Paris Games Week, you imagine, or because it's specifically Sony announcing titles, you imagine that some of them would have to be console exclusives.
Right, and Bloodborne 2 could possibly fit that category.
In Armored Core at this point, it's not like it is notably a title that it's not like it's known for being an Xbox title or a Switch title or anything like that.
That could be fun on PC.
So, yeah, here's to hoping. But it's weird when people talk exclusives on console as opposed to total exclusive. Like, a lot of people were giving huge props to Microsoft for having the exclusivity on Cuphead, but I imagine most people are buying it on Steam.
I was about to say, yeah, I don't think exclusive is a word that we can actually throw around anymore when it comes to Microsoft.
Yeah, a lot of Microsoft's stuff gets promoted as exclusively on Xbox One, and also the game is exclusive to PC, and it might be exclusive to PlayStation 4.
But doesn't it seem like a lost opportunity for them to have allowed its release on Steam?
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, that would be a great way to really pressure more people who have, say, a gaming computer and an Xbox into purchasing from the Microsoft store as opposed to pulling it off of Steam. But I don't know how big that actual user base is. Like, I don't know how many gamers have a main console and a computer rig. Though I do bet that most people who have a gaming computer setup probably have one other main console, if not more.
More than likely the PlayStation, because Microsoft was just like, oh yeah, you got a gaming computer? You don't need an Xbox anymore.
I mean, that's how I feel about it entirely. There are Xbox exclusive games that I won't be able to play on my PC, and I'm totally fine with that. But I have the PS4, so I don't miss out on PlayStation exclusives like, Bloodborne, or let's see, what's the other one that I got? The Last of Us Remastered Edition. Like, there are certain games I was willing to spring a console for, even though I could find plenty of other games on my computer.
And I think Cuphead's developers, Studio MDHR, probably one of them have agreed to just sell or distribute the game on Xbox and the Windows Store.
They wouldn't have sold as much. I can probably guarantee that.
Yep.
I shouldn't say probably guarantee. I should just say guarantee.
But yeah, I was really surprised when a lot of like media outlets were essentially congratulating Microsoft on that. Like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't have anything else to say about that. Did you notice that Persona 5 now has an Ultimate Edition?
But
Ooh, what's that come with?
Yeah, Persona 5 already was the Ultimate game.
Yeah. My hopes got up when I read it, but it just turns out to be all of the DLC attached. No new content other than that.
It's extra skins, added level of difficulty. No special story content or anything like that, Neil.
Nope, and it's $125 on PS4.
Well, that's because you need to pay for all the extra stuff that you're getting.
$60 game, and then that's $85 of DLC.
Yep.
Like what maybe bums me the most though is that it's not like there's a total DLC pack available for people that already own Persona 5.
Wait, there's not?
Not to my knowledge. I'll fact check myself.
And we've also kind of escaped the era in which you can take a game that you've purchased and trade it in for the Game of the Year edition. Like that used to be my bread and butter when I was a little bit younger, like late middle school and into high school. Take Fallout 3, trade it in for Game of the Year edition, get all the DLCs since I didn't have an internet connection for my console. But like these days, if you own Persona 5, you don't really have the ability to buy it all over again and get all the DLCs in an Ultimate Edition. I feel like it's just kind of a limiting factor for making those purchases.
And it's not like there's a bundle feature like you have on Steam where you can just add all the DLC together.
Right, where it's able to say, well, you do already have this base component, so we discount the cost of the base component and give you this package instead.
So I'm going to go on a limb and say that if you probably added up most of the DLC, you would be close to that total, along with the new game anyways.
And with that, you can at least pick and choose what you do want.
Yeah.
But then again, it's all cosmetic and audio.
Which, yeah, you're absolutely on the nose here that is still way less scumbaggy than forcing players to go through a grind fest like Shadow of War. Unless you want to buy all of these legendary goblins or orcs. Orcs, goblins, same thing.
Either way.
And the last bit I had on the docket was Palmer Luckey's got a new company. And it's not gaming per se, but it's centered around VR for the military.
Didn't they announce that like a while ago?
Did he?
Yeah.
Then maybe I'm late to the punch.
Yeah, Neil's looking up the date of the article that he found. He's like, oh, that's right. It's 2017.
Oh, but I guess they just re-announced it? Or maybe I just knew for this from the future. Maybe I'm from the future, guys.
Didn't we already talk about a future cookie issue? Haven't you admitted now twice to the paradox that you're...
But this cookie's from I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's right. We were talking about cookies gender too. Cookies gender changes at some point in time.
Speaking of, I am a cisgendered. Oh God, I forgot what the entire title is. I'm a cisgendered homosexual female. Oh God, African Irish pale skinned something. I don't have a religion yet. I'm not that far yet.
I wonder if religion in the fractured butthole gives you different perks.
I'm 90% sure it's going to. The amount of like customizability of your gender / your ethnicity is kind of staggering.
I just stumbled on a picture of Palmer Luckey cosplaying as Quiet from Metal Gear Solid 5.
Right.
Thanks, New York Times. This is a fucking New York Times article, too. Like, what the fuck is going on in this world? Yeah. If you have comments, questions, or corrections, you can write into podcast@fancyramen.com.
And if you've enjoyed the show, leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
But more importantly, tell a friend about Palmer Luckey's cosplay as Quiet in Metal Gear Solid to help both Palmer Luckey and us grow our audience.
God, fucking what? Why? Like, do you guys want to see this? Should I put this in the show notes?
I'm already
looking
at it too.
It's really great when he's next to there are photos of him, of course, cosplaying as Quiet next to another person cosplaying as Quiet. And I gotta say, like, he's got it down.
He's rocking it.
Yeah, his gun's not as good. Like, but if that's the worst thing about your cosplay, that's pretty solid.
Just why? And he's so serious in this picture too.
Oh, you're just looking at one picture?
Yeah, I've got a whole like array of. This may be on my wall later. Oh my god. He's got so many different cosplays going on.
He cosplays as a lot of females.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Ooh, he's Rainbow Dash.
All right, I think that does it for episode 38 of the Fancy Ramen podcast. I'm Neil.
I'm Cookie.
And I'm Scott.
Have a great week, everybody.
Yep.
The music used in this episode of the Fancy Ramen podcast is from Super Mario Odyssey, composed by Naoto Kubo, Koji Kondo, and Shijo Fuji.